When is Britain going to wake up to Russian interference in its politics? As of today, there seems to be a huge dump of information online by Politico, as well as claims that Americans have been arrested for promoting Russian propaganda online. Have a listen to this.
Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine.
This is Tim Pool, also known as Tim Cast, outed as a Russian propagandist. Tim was being paid $100,000 a week by Tenet Media. Tenet Media took millions in Kremlin cash as part of a scheme to create and distribute content to audiences with hidden Russian government messaging. The document goes further by suggesting that actually there are 6 influencers in total, all of whom have been putting forward a pro-Russian stance, and all are denying currently that they had anything to do with this. In fact, they're the victims. In a statement, US Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said,
"At Russian President Vladimir Putin's direction, 3 Russian companies used fake profiles to promote false narratives on social media."
According to the FBI affidavit, one of the primary goals was to boost the candidacy of Trump, or the eventual Republican nominee. This revelation highlights the Kremlin's far-reaching agenda, with disinformation not only aimed at Europe, but also targeting American voters, and it raises serious concerns about the integrity of US and UK democracies. So why hasn't the UK government done more? Before I answer that question, I'd like to say please click that like and subscribe button, it really helps the channel, and ever since I've been doing Russian videos, I've definitely noticed an increase in Russian trolls on my sites, so every like helps spread this video, helping in the fight against Putin's disinformation and assault on British democracy. And we're not done yet, because Politico, a media organisation that focuses on politics, released documents relating to FBI findings into Russian interference. The document, also known as an affidavit, which was released by Politico online, it shows the FBI's recent findings, providing irrefutable evidence of a large-scale Russian campaign aimed at the UK and other Western democracies. And it's called Operation Doppelganger. Russian agents set up fake websites mimicking trusted British news outlets like The Guardian and the Daily Mail to spread false narratives and destabilise society. And interestingly and recently, where have we heard something similar?
Unpredictable, confrontational, the police, right in the middle. In Hull city centre, another standoff.
Now, I'm going to be very nuanced here. I don't think there's any evidence to really show that Russia was involved in spreading the story of the migrant. But what was clear was Russian state media and disinformation networks were amplifying the false claims surrounding the Southport stabbings. And that, in part, was a catalyst to what took place with the riots. And again, it leads me to ask the question, why is the UK government not doing a second Russia report? And before you say Starmer's had 50 days, and this is a pretty serious thing that he's got to be dealing with right now. America, day one they got wind of some form of Russian interference in their elections, opened an investigation, and it was with both parties. And in the UK, it's the complete opposite. Both parties are being silent, and therefore, in my opinion, complicit. Because according to this FBI report, these efforts are being designed to escalate internal tensions in countries like the UK, focusing on issues like NATO involvement and support for Ukraine. The Russian goal is to fracture public trust in British government and its international allies. And we've seen that successfully implemented in Brexit, and we're still seeing this today with some far-right commentators talking about the UK getting out of the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights.
Unless we get rid of ECHR.
That's why it is now time to leave. Our rights have always come from Parliament, not from unelected judges in Strasbourg who make up the law as they go along.
To be very clear, speaking as Marc Francois, I would now, given the events of the last few years, given the boats, given what Ben has said about national security, I'm prepared to contemplate that we should leave.
And the only other countries to do that? Russia and Russia's best friend, Belarus. And it's not just the FBI making these assessments. According to Oxford University, they discovered 45,000 automated social media accounts in 2019, and they're all driven to influence public opinion during the Brexit referendum. Many of the same narratives that Russia pushed during Brexit, anti-NATO, opposition to EU membership and distrust in Western allies, are being repeated in this same campaign, the Doppelganger campaign. The 2020 Russia report by UK's Intelligence and Security Committee also highlighted the government's failure to properly investigate Russia's role in Brexit. It stated that
what we do know about Russian influence in the UK is that it's the new normal. Successive governments have welcomed Russian oligarchs and their money with open arms. And there is a lot of Russians with very close links to Putin who are now very well integrated into both UK business, political and social scene in what has been referred to as Londongrad.
There has, however, been speculation that this report was going to reveal either that Russia had interfered in or sought to influence the referendum. In the committee's view, it's worse than that. The report reveals that no one in government knew if Russia interfered in or sought to influence the referendum because they did not want to know. The UK government have actively avoided looking for evidence that Russia interfered. We were told that they hadn't seen any evidence, but that is meaningless if they hadn't looked for it. The committee found it astonishing that no one in government had sought beforehand to protect the referendum from such attempts or investigated afterwards what attempts to influence it there may have been.
In fact, it gets worse because for the first time ever, 3 MPs have taken our own government to the ECHR to find out whether or not they've got a case where the UK government should be investigating Russian interference.
Claim has been brought by Ben Bradshaw, Caroline Lucas and Alan Smith. It's brought on the basis that the UK government is required under the European Convention to ensure that elections held in the UK are held under conditions that ensure the free expression of people. Now, back in 2017, there were allegations that Russia had interfered in UK elections. That led to Theresa May calling out Russia and telling Russia that it was meddling in our elections, and the Intelligence and Security Committee launching an investigation into potential interference in electoral processes. Now, some of your viewers might recall that Boris Johnson sat on that report, but when it did finally come out and was published in July 2020, it showed that there was clear evidence that Russia had been meddling in elections in the UK. So the Scottish referendum, the EU exit referendum, and of course the 2019 general election. The legal claim is to counter the government's failure to do anything about that. So we now have credible evidence that Russia has interfered in our elections. The UK government has not taken any action either to investigate that fully, these credible allegations, or indeed to put in place policies, legislative frameworks, laws to stop that happening in the future.
Now, bear in mind, this is 2022, this is now almost 2-3 years later. Have a listen to what he says about this new type of interference and the fact that no one seems to be doing anything about it.
We've traditionally thought of threats to elections as meddling at polling booths or fraudulent voter ID, whatever it might be. Here we're looking at a new and emerging threat, which the Convention right to free and fair elections has not previously had to deal with, or rather the courts have not had to deal with. Now, what the court in the UK, the High Court, said is that the right under the Convention to free and fair elections doesn't go so far to require the government to investigate in this way or putting in place procedures to stop it happening again. So what the challenge at Strasbourg now is doing is asking the court whether that in fact is correct, or does this convention right extend to these new and emerging threats, which of course our clients, the MPs, and many others, in fact the ISC as well, it seems, think it should do, because this is credible evidence that this is affecting our electoral processes here in the UK.
This is social media having an impact, and one of the most interesting things you tend to hear is a pushback from a lot of trolls. Oh, social media, it can't be that impactful. Oh, social media doesn't affect the way I think. If that's the case, you better not tell all these advertisers who spend millions of pounds trying to get you to buy products that actually their advertising doesn't work at all. The FBI's affidavit, along with the new indictment, makes one thing abundantly clear. The UK is a prime target for Russian interference. The first Russia report only scratched the surface. With these new revelations, a second, more comprehensive investigation is urgently needed. This isn't just about safeguarding one election, it's about defending the democratic process itself. A second Russia report would expose the full extent of Russia's influence and help put measures in place to protect future elections. In the coming weeks, I'm hoping to get a group of YouTubers together, as well as other social media influencers, to push for a petition to be put in front of Parliament. In the meantime, thank you to all my YouTube supporters and Patreons. You keep this channel going and growing. If you'd like to become one, click the link in the channel. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.